night. Right, we'll get to Arsenal next. They're being linked with strikers and wide forwards this summer. Bukayo Saka may well have some new teammates when he reports back to the club, but he feels they're in pretty good shape already.
We all know there's a lot of speculation around us and who we're signing this summer, but I think, once that's all done at the end of the summer, the relationships that I need to work on, I'll work on at the training ground, at the Emirates and wherever we're playing. But I do think I have a good relationship with a lot of the players that I play with, including here and also at my club. So, yeah, I think I'm in a good place with that.
Right, Sesko, been linked with Arsenal. Where are we with this one?
It looks like it's developing, this one, because Arsenal have held initial talks with RB Leipzig over the signing of Benjamin Sesko. They've been exploring what kind of finances it would take to do a deal. Now, it's understood that Leipzig, even though there was a release clause associated with Sesko, I think there is loosely a release clause, but it's so high that it would have to be negotiated anyway. And I think what Leipzig are doing, as many other clubs will do when they have such a prized asset such as Sesko, is how are we going to value this player? And sometimes they will compare with other players in the market. So,
like you would selling a house, buying a house.
Exactly. So it's our information. Players like Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak are maybe players that RB Leipzig are saying, well, if they're worth that much, then Sesko is worth this much. And we think that it's going to take around £80 million to get Sesko. There might be a bit of a negotiation associated with that. And of course, £80 million sounds a lot, but then when you break it down over the course of a contract, it gets broken down into installments, so it is quite manageable, even though the final fee is still quite high. But that's what they will be discussing. Now, Sesko himself, he's pretty relaxed about it all. He's got a great relationship with RB Leipzig. He's not going to rock the boat and try and force a move at this stage. But what we do know is that he's quite attracted to a potential move to Arsenal. You can get Champions League football again next season. RB Leipzig won't have that next season. And it's also thought that he is really flattered that Arsenal have maintained this long-standing interest in him. Because if you go back to January, when you consistently asked me the question, are they going to sign a striker? His name always did come up because they've always looked at him. That said, they are looking at other players as well. And Viktor Gyokeres is another player that Arsenal have been looking at and doing due diligence on.
I just wanted to talk about him. So we've spoken about him with Manchester United. Could Arsenal nip in and nick him?
There have been lots of reports that there's a bit of a split at Arsenal in the sense that Andrea Berta, the new sporting director, may want Gyokeres, whereas Mikel Arteta is leaning more towards Sesko. I haven't seen with my own eyes a great deal of both of the players, but I think they're different types of strikers, and Gyokeres is just a goal machine. I mean, his record at Sporting is incredible, and in every big game he scores goals.
Right,
title decider, he scores.
Look at
Cup
these.
final, he scores.
Look at these stats, right? Now, we've been asking, window after window, are Arsenal going to sign a striker? And they've consistently said, we are waiting. We're not going to just buy anybody. We're going to wait for the right person. Look at those stats. Is Benjamin Sesko the right person for Arsenal? Explain.
I mean, brilliant. And then he's played in the Portuguese league. So Sesko has gone to the Bundesliga, widely renowned as one of European football's top 5 leagues. So they might take that into account as well. But Arsenal might see his ceiling as being a lot higher than maybe Gyokeres, simply because, one, of how he's playing, but also because of his age profile as well.
Yeah, I get that. Is there the possibility, though, Carl, potential and not being the finished article?
I mean, first of all, I'm not a great fan of stats. I think
our stats man's gutted now.
Glad we put that
worked
one
hard
up.
on that.
Glad we put that one up for you to
I think one stat that's really important is age. Sesko's obviously 5 years younger, I think, so would have more of a resale value. But you need to look in depth at how Sporting play and how Leipzig play. Sporting are the best team in Portugal. I imagine the way they play, they dominate the board in a lot of games. They have excellent creative players whose job is simply to create chances for Gyokeres. And Gyokeres is a fantastic finisher. And that's why playing in the best team in Sporting, he's scoring so many goals. Leipzig are not the best team in Germany. And they may not be set up just to create chances for Sesko. His role in that team might be totally different to Gyokeres' role at Sporting. Now, Arsenal have got a very good, large recruitment, data analysis department, and I'm sure they've been watching a lot of these two players as well as lots of other strikers they've been targeting, and they will have been poring over the numbers and the data, analysing it, presenting it to Mikel Arteta and his closest advisors at the club, and they will make the decision. I don't think you can just go by that graphic or that stat and say that proves that Gyokeres is better than Sesko. I think there's more to it than that.
It's difficult to compare.
With all due respect to the people who create stats, because they do a fantastic job.
Too late now. It's too late.
It's also difficult to compare the example you gave with Rasmus Højlund, because if you look at, going back to these stats, Sesko's played 64 games for RB Leipzig. When Manchester United signed Rasmus Højlund, it was off the back. Yes, he'd been at Copenhagen and Sturm Graz, but in one of European football's top leagues, Serie A, at Atlanta, he spent one season there, made 20 league starts. And off the back of that, United decided, right, we've seen enough for us to buy this player. But I think it's been widely thought that he should have been a player who could have learnt from an experienced striker. Instead, he's literally been thrown in and been asked to be Manchester United's main man. It's difficult enough being the number 9 at Manchester United at 20 years of age when he joined. How hard is that? Add to that, and I know I'm trying to defend Rasmus Højlund here, but add to that the two pre-seasons. He didn't have a pre-season when he joined, and his second pre-season, he actually started on flames in that pre-season, and then he got a really bad hamstring injury and missed the start of last season.
He was actually on flames?
Some say, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's difficult to compare.
Yeah, no, I get it.
The fact that Rasmus and Benjamin Sesko, because I think Sesko probably at this stage of his career is further in his development than Rasmus Højlund was when he joined Manchester United.
And you were saying, like, if Rasmus Højlund was playing for Sporting last season, he probably would have scored 25, 30 goals.
You might well have
I
done.
don't know. You know the stats.
But
so.
do we believe Arsenal, though, when they say we've been holding out for our main target, we know who we want, and that is Benjamin Sesko? Did they really hold out for Benjamin Sesko looking at those stats?
We said, didn't we, in January, that they were trying to do a deal for Sesko, but at that time, it was difficult because Leipzig was still going quite well involved in a number of competitions, and they were trying to get into the Champions League for next season. And they probably thought we've got more of a chance if Benjamin Sesko's at the club. And the amount of money that Arsenal would have had to have spent in January compared to trying to do a deal in the summer, we've explained this all the time when we speak in a January transfer window, why clubs sometimes are quite reticent to do a deal, because the price automatically goes up in a January transfer window, it feels. But when you take a step back in the summer, it's actually quite easier to do a deal than it is in the middle of a season.
Tell us about Rodrigo. Could Arsenal get that deal done?
They're interested in him. Could he be the odd man out at Real Madrid? It certainly feels that way. But as it stands, I mean, this could change. And Carve will be there for the FIFA Club World Cup out there in the States. But as it stands, he's going to be part of the Real Madrid squad that goes and plays in that FIFA Club World Cup. Again, and I know I've said it before with the likes of Sesko, Rodrygo is one of a number of players that Arsenal are looking at in those attacking positions. They like Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao, who doesn't. Morgan Rogers has even been internally discussed from Aston Villa as well. Leroy Sané, I know Carve said, has been offered to Arsenal and to Tottenham as well from Bayern Munich. So definitely there is an interest. Definitely they do want to strengthen in that position. And I know he plays predominantly on the right-hand side, and people will say, why would he come to Arsenal? Look who's on the right-hand side for Arsenal. You are not going to knock Bukayo Saka out of the team. However, I think Arsenal are quite attracted to the fact that Rodrigo can play along the front line. So he can play on the left, he can play on the right, and he can play in the middle as well.
Yeah, he's some player. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk